Welcome to the Music Business Conversations podcast. I'm your host, John Mathis Jr. I've spent many years having conversations with artists, songwriters, musicians, and others about various topics in the music business. Sometimes those happened over a cup of coffee in the morning, or sometimes they took place with tacos at lunch. If someone was brave enough to follow me into my favorite taqueria, where that creamy green salsa is pureed jalapenos, and what looks like grilled jalapenos are actually serrano chili peppers, 10 to 20 times hotter than actual jalapenos. Now I'm taking some of those topics. I've had conversations in person in the past, and I'm sharing them in this podcast. So let's talk about something that could be important for you, maybe more important than what you realize. No matter what most of our pursuits are, songwriters, singers, musicians, or others, we usually all have one of these. We're talking about bios, which comes from the longer word biography. It's those 1 or 2 paragraphs, or in some cases 10 or 20 paragraphs, we use to tell people about us. So what is a bio really? What is it for? For most of us, if we're independent, and most of us are, a bio is our resume. Yes, it is actually a resume, or should be thought of that way, and here's why. What is a resume for? It is for trying to get a job or land some work. Most often, creative people tend to think of bios in terms of something for their fans or followers to read, like a biography. But in reality, your bio is your resume. Let me give you some life examples from personal experiences. I've had many times where someone I was working with wanted me to contact a talent buyer on their behalf at a theme park or other venue, or contact a TV or radio show to see if they could get an interview, or I might be pitching a new release for placement on Spotify playlists. Situations where I'm the Nashville professional rep reaching out to see if I can secure a spot on behalf of someone else. Bear in mind that many times the people I'm reaching out to not only have other music business professionals reaching out besides me, but they have tons of other artists and musicians or individuals who are contacting them wanting the same placement. So on the other end, they're receiving a lot of review this type of requests, and their time is limited, and you're looking at maybe getting 5 to 10 seconds to hook them and have their attention. That person does not have the time to listen to hundreds of songs or watch hundreds of videos. They will lean more on a method to sort through the initial contact, and that is going to come from the bio or your resume. I have traveled over to lift the artist bio to use some of that information to form my pitches. I'm going to grab some credits from their resume so I can make my pitch. Hey, this is the guy for the job, or to fill that opening you have, because they have played this stage, or they've worked with this name, or whatever the associations are that I think will catch the eye of the reader and sway their mental perception that this person is a candidate to fill the spot you're wanting to fill. And sometimes if it's someone I just started working with, I'll read their bio first, and I'll go back to them and be honest and say, hey, here's some just suggestions for you. And that's usually because the bio was written more like something for trying to get a date. In other words, bios sometimes are geared to fans or followers. The basis of that is like getting a date. You like them, and you want them to like you too, so your language is more geared towards creative, artful ways to say, hey, I grew up out on a farm, fishing on a creek, listening to George Jones, things like that. You know, if you're country, sometimes the artist is trying to paint the picture of how country they are. If they're a Christian artist, they want to reinforce how much they grew up in church and had that influence. All those things that might make a new fan or follower feel relatable and like you more. That's not a criticism, by the way, but that's not the approach you need or to start out with for getting a job or getting work. You need a resume. So when someone is going to hire you for work, so to speak, they want to see what you have in regard to qualifications for the job. So you should start a bio with credits that you have. It may have been previous stages you've performed on. Pick the venues that would be known to the most people. Sometimes if you're just starting out, it may only be a smaller venue known in a certain region of people, but it's worth listing. And if that venue has any recognition, then that's part of how you describe the venue. You're not just listing your credits sometimes, but you also insert the credits of your associations as well. If you've performed with or opened for other notable artists, that's a good association. It's a good company to keep. As a songwriter, I've had the chance to write with some award-winning multi-charting songwriters, and we may not have had anything significant come from our collaborations, but there's validity to being in such company. You want to include what people you have directly worked with. I've worked with artists who felt they didn't have any accomplishments to put in their bio, no awards or nominations or big stages, but I'd find out they worked with a Grammy-nominated producer to record their music, or they had a Grammy-winning mix engineer complete the mix, and it wasn't in their bio. Any information that is a resume builder that says you're a professional, the more recognizable those connections or pieces of information are, the more credible a pitch will be to a venue you're trying to book or any pitch you're trying to make. I've seen what a good bio can do. It is basically like a good resume. It can be the difference between being dismissed after someone reads a few sentences or getting that extra few seconds of attention that you need to entice them to give you a second interview, which that could be them actually moving forward to listen to some of your music or watching your music video or maybe even contacting you. If you want to include some personal biography, work that in later. That will help fill out a bio if you don't feel like you have a lot of credits to start with. But when it comes to your bio, think resume, notable work history, and achievements first, because we're all looking for work. Thank you for your time today. I hope this has been something useful for you and what you do, something to think about. Be sure and like or subscribe. And if you'd like to support the content, there are links where you can do that as well. Adios. Let's go get some tacos.